Kia ora, ko Helen toko ingoa.
Kia ora, everybody. Kia ora koutou, ko Georgie toko ingoa.
So Georgie and I are both nurses working for the Plunket Perinatal Adjustment Programme in Canterbury. That's commonly known as PNAP. We provide short-term support for parents who may be struggling to adjust to that parenting journey or have got some signs, symptoms of anxiety and depression. We take referrals from child nurses, GPs, midwives, but anybody can refer, and we're here today to talk about mental health in the perinatal period. So that is the period in antenatally, and also the period following the birth of your baby. If you do have any questions, please feel free to submit them. This can be done anonymously, and we've set time aside at the end to go through these. Also, if you've got any ideas or tips that you'd like to share, you can do that in the chat too. We should probably apologise at the beginning. You may have noticed at the start that we are having a little bit of technical issues with the internet, so please bear with us. So, Georgie, coming to you. Just wondering, what is it that you are noticing for women in that perinatal period?
Yeah, Helen, I think it's really important to say right off the bat that, you know, for most women, having a new baby is likely one of the biggest transitions or challenges and changes that a woman goes through in her life. So really normal to experience a wide range of emotions through this time. And it can be really changeable too from day to day. And, you know, a lot of that change comes from expectations on new mums and dads. And this expectation comes from the wider society, you know, those shoulds and shouldn'ts, the things that you should do as a new mum. Often our families, our whānau, there can be things that have gone before us that we feel expected to do in the same way. But probably the biggest expectation often comes from ourselves, and you know, that can be really a heavy load for us to carry. So these expectations, you know, they play a big part in how we feel, how we're managing as a new parent, and some of those things like you know, during our pregnancy, how will I even cope? How will I manage as a parent? Maybe breastfeeding is an example of one of those things that hasn't gone the way you thought it would. Your baby being in a routine, that's a big one. The expectation, it should, you know, the routine that your baby should be in. So there's a lot there to hold on to.
And things from social
and I think
media
also, you know, for our partners too, they have a different set of expectations they're trying to meet. Yeah, social media is huge, and I think that's a big area that we notice a lot of new mums can get in sort of that trap of, you know, sometimes in terms of too much information on board. Yeah. But, you know, our partners can experience their own set of expectations, different feelings in terms of what they thought their role as a parent or how they are as a partner might have looked. And one of the other things that contributes to your sort of role as a new parent is your background. So how you were raised, both the positive and the negative influences that come into your decision making as a parent. And for some people, they've experienced past traumas, which are always a really individual experience, as we know. But these past traumas can really impact on us as parents and how we're feeling about it. So it can be really important to seek information. if you've had a past trauma and you feel this is impacting on your parenting. Yeah.
So I think we probably hear terms around baby blues, which can be quite common, but what do we need to look out for, Georgie, or what do we need to be worried about that it could be something more than that?
Yeah, well, firstly, the baby blues is a common term, and it affects about 3/4 of new mums, actually. Something lasting for usually a few days or up to a week or so. And it's a time that we can feel really emotional, often really tearful, and not actually know why. Those tears can just come at the drop of a hat. So really important to be kind to yourself during these days, lowering those expectations that we talked about, doing things like protecting sleep and resting, and accepting help if it's offered to you.
And that can be so,
just really
so
continuing trying to. Oh yeah, definitely. Really hard to get sleep and really hard to take offers of help. Yeah, both of those things can be. But trying to sort of keep yourself in that spotlight as well, looking after yourself with your basic needs, while you're also looking after a new pepe. And I guess for some women, these feelings of sadness, they can continue for longer than a 2-week period, and also be accompanied by a range of other feelings, such as losing interest in normally enjoyed activities, experiencing low mood, feeling irritable or angry, feeling hopeless or overwhelmed, or having more extreme changes you might notice in your eating or sleeping. So this might mean eating more than you normally do, or having a reduced appetite, wanting to sleep a lot, or not being able to sleep. So if you're feeling that you've got some of these symptoms happening, that indicates something more than the baby blues. And they can also affect, how you're enjoying your bond with your baby too.
Yeah, that can be massive.
Yeah.
So
definitely. Yeah, again, yeah. Especially if it's something that you just thought was going to come easily to you.
Yeah. And that's not every mum's experience.
No, not at all.
No. So if you're worried,
and of course can be different from from baby to baby.
Yeah. So I'm really noticing that lag, Georgie, in the internet.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you feel worried,
yeah, I think Helen, if you're
sorry, Georgie, if you're worried that the baby blues, it's more than that, what should you be doing?
Yeah, if you think this is you, or maybe you've noticed this in someone you love, or a close friend, don't feel ashamed of it. It's a really common thing to be experiencing, and actually 1 in 4 women and 1 in 10 men can experience postnatal depression. It can look similar to a normal diagnosis of depression, except that obviously this time you've got your little baby to care for amongst it all. And postnatal depression can occur any time from around that 2-week period postnatally up until your baby's first birthday. So if you think you're struggling, experiencing a few of these symptoms that I mentioned, it can be really good to let your partner know if you can, or reach out to a trusted friend or family member. Just knowing that someone else knows what you're experiencing is really good, and can be that sort of help you on that step forward to some help. And then the other really important thing to do is to make a time to meet with your GP, because they can suggest a number of strategies and support you if postnatal depression is something happening for you. You might find once you meet with your GP that they They talk about medication and how medication can be a tool to support lifting your mood, amongst other things that you could try. And most medications now to support mood and anxiety are really safe and commonly taken during pregnancy and breastfeeding. And it's no difference really, other than, when you've maybe got an imbalance in your body or a lack of function somewhere, we need to take medication to support us at that time. It's exactly the same way with medication for your mental health. Yeah.
So what kind of things, if you're recognising that this might be you, Georgie, what kind of things can you do to help yourself a little bit?
Yeah, I guess first and foremost, coming back to just your basic needs, making sure you're eating regularly, hopefully that good nutritious food when possible. Things like making time for your shower each day, which might seem a really silly and small thing, but knowing that you've had that done, it's almost like a tick to your list of things you want to do. It sort of sets you up for the day and you can move on with the next thing. We talked a wee bit about sleep, and that's always a massive thing once you've had a baby, as we all know. So taking those opportunities for rest when your baby's asleep, or just relaxing is really important. We find often that because we get really focused on our baby's needs, sometimes those basic things can get neglected. So just coming back and checking with yourself, am I eating okay? Am I having rests? Am I getting in my shower or my walk? That sort of thing. The other thing is, when you're experiencing postnatal depression, you might be feeling low in energy or motivation. So that sense of achieving sort of sometimes goes out the window. But making a conscious effort to find some really small things that you enjoy, and we're talking about tiny things here, is really important. So it can be a good idea to start off with, to make a bit of a list of what are those things that I used to like doing maybe before I had a baby, because we can forget that as well, small or large, the things that bring me joy, the things that bring me meaning, those feel good things. Yeah. And then when you're having a tough day, you can refer to that list and hopefully draw on something. So it could be, things just like sitting in the sun with your cuppa, hot drink, reading a few pages of your book, maybe a text or a call to a good friend, taking your dog for a walk, just stepping out to the fresh air, painting your nails, a whole raft of things that, whatever it is that for you feels good. And trying each day to choose something that you can slot in is really important. The more of those little things you can do, the better. But as long as you've got something each day to just help for you to reset yourself. Yeah. And of course, social connections, always really important. And everyone's different on that front. So some people like to be a part of big groups and other people just want to have one or two close friends. But keeping those social connections up and knowing that they are there to support and encourage you are really helpful for your well-being.
Great.
And Helen, so I guess we've talked a wee bit about postnatal depression and the baby blues, but we're quite aware that for a lot of women in this period, anxiety often sits alongside those feelings of depression. What can you tell us about anxiety?
Well, thanks, Georgie, and thanks for all those lovely suggestions about what you can do if you're feeling low around that time that you're having a baby. So anxiety affects approximately 20% of women in the perinatal period. So that's actually about 1 in 5. So if you translate that to any group, mum and baby group, if there's 10 people there's potentially going to be 2 people that are feeling anxious at any time. And I guess the first thing is to mention that kind of fear, anxiety is a really normal human emotion. as human beings, we are not designed to be in a permanent state of happiness or relaxation. So if we think about a situation in which we're confronted by actual danger, and I guess an example of that would be walking down the street and we see a dog that's not on a lead and it's looking angry and growling. We experience a bit of a fear response, and it triggers in our body a response known as the fight, flight, freeze response. And the whole idea of that response is it's designed to keep us safe. So if you kind of think of fear, anxiety as a bit of a way to keep us safe, compare this to, I guess, anxiety, where there's no real danger there. Then it's quite a different feeling. So you tend to find that anxiety feels very different, very similar to fear, but it happens in the absence of real danger. So an example of this may be going out in public with your peppy. It may be that you're thinking of going to a group, but you're worried about your baby crying, that they're going to become unsettled, and that those other mummies are going to be judging you. That's quite often a common theme that we see. And our body responds to that in exactly the same way as it would respond to kind of meeting an angry looking dog in the street. So that response gets kicked out by our body. We start to notice that our heart rate increases, our breathing goes faster. We might notice kind of tension and soreness in our muscles, especially around our neck, as we kind of hold ourselves very tense when we feel like that. And we might start to feel a little bit sick and lose our appetite. And what you often notice as well is kind of tingly fingers or toes and losing concentration. And they're all real physical effects of what's happening to our bodies. The other thing that can happen is we might get a little bit stuck in our thoughts. So what we often do is replay situations or events that have happened, because fear and the effects of it is like a learning tool for our body. We learn from it so we can respond differently next time. We tend to have this situation where we play thoughts over and over again, but these can become really negative, repetitive, unwanted thoughts, and often have a bit of a what if type of situation going on. So that can happen as well. The other thing that you might notice is that we behave differently. And I think this is really common for a lot of the mums that we see. So what they often report is feeling kind of irritable and angry. So if you think of a mum who's at home all day, they may notice themselves becoming irritable with a toddler's behaviour or a baby that won't settle, and then that can lead them into feeling really quite guilty about how they're feeling. And I think probably the final part of it is that you find that we can start to focus on routine. So mums will become quite routine focused, because uncertainty and unpredictability in your day can be really quite scary. So those are the kind of things that you might notice with what's happening with your body, with your thoughts, and with your behaviours.
Yeah, that's all really good, Helen, really helpful. I think really good to differentiate between, the actual threat and the things we perceive to be a threat, and also those physical signs. That's really handy, actually, being aware in your own body of what physical signs you start to feel when you're thinking about anxiety, because that often can give you those sort of really sort of early warning signs, and you can do something with that sometimes, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what can you do, Helen, if you're noticing some of these things, you know, some of these things you've talked about in terms of your thoughts and your behaviours?
Yeah. So if you are worried about how you're feeling, I think probably the biggest thing is reach out, have a chat with somebody that you can trust. It may be a friend, a family member, or a GP. If you're not so sure about where you're sitting with this, there is a 10-question quiz on a website that we call PADA, which is PADA, and it stands for Perinatal Anxiety and Depression Aotearoa. We will pop the link in the chat at the bottom at the end of this, so you can go find that out if it's something you think you might like to do. And you can have a chat with your well child nurse, your GP, or Plunket line as well. So we often think that Plunket line is just there for questions about babies. They're actually there to respond to things about mental health as well for parents. So just remembering that they're there too.
Great stuff. Yeah, I think, you know, there's other things that can help as well in terms of, you know, anxiety. What else are you sort of suggesting in terms of strategies you can do yourself at home?
So when we work with clients, we're using research-based activities to help manage periods of anxiety. Probably the big go-to one is focusing on slowing and calming our breathing down. There will be a link at the bottom around one of the breathing techniques we use to do this, or alternatively, you can have a look online. It's really a case of finding one for you. The one that is linked is one that I particularly like, and it's called box or square breathing. And the reason I like that one is because it's easy. It's quick and it's easy. There isn't a lot to remember, and things need to be quick and easy when you've got a little person in your life that you're looking after as well. For anybody that does stay with us until the very end, we will do a wee breathing relaxation exercise just to, I guess, give an example and just calm things down a little bit. Certainly something I'll be ready for after doing a live chat. The other thing that can help is staying in the moment, and a good way to do that is to connect with a part of the physical world for a few minutes. And I know that sounds really easy because we're in it all the time, but you often find that your mind is wandering to something that might be happening later in your life. It might be, oh, what we're going to have for dinner tonight, or what do I need to get when I go grocery shopping? So a good way to notice your surroundings could be taking 30 seconds out of your day to really notice eating your lunch or eating dinner at night. So it's tapping into those senses, what you can see, taste, touch, hear, and feel. And doing it with food can actually be a really good way to make sure you sit down and eat in a day as well.
Yeah, lovely.
It's something you can do with your baby too. So maybe at nappy change time, you really take a minute to notice your baby. What colour is the hair? How do the little toes and feet feel? What do they smell like? Because again, that's one of those things that's really connecting you with your baby at that point. And if you're out walking, you know, it might be that you just take a couple of minutes to really notice how many leaves are left on the trees, what temperature is it? Is it breezy? Is it warm? What can I hear? What can I see? And again, it's that stuff that's just going to bring you back to connect with what's happening right now.
Yeah, and that stuff really helps with taking away from your ruminating, worried thoughts, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's a good lead in really, Georgie, to things about worry, because obviously parenting does bring you a lot of joy as you watch your wee Peppy grow. But it also brings a whole heap of worry, which can take you away from enjoying what's happening for them right now. So it can be quite helpful to set aside a little bit of time in a day. It could be something you decide you're going to do once a week. And you grab a pen, a piece of paper, a cup of coffee, and you just jot down everything that's worrying you right at that moment. So it frees your mind up. It's getting everything down on paper, so that you can then be free to enjoy what's happening for you right now. But then you can go to your list later and reflect on it, because what you might notice then is that things you were worrying about this morning actually don't seem to matter too much now.
And I really like that. So sort of a bit of worry time scheduled in on your day.
Absolutely. Yep, totally. And I think, some of the mums and families that we see do experience a little bit of that social anxiety. So worrying about how it's going to be if we go out. Is my baby going to be unsettled? Are they going to cry? How am I going to cope with that? And it will often put people off attending groups and activities, which is such a shame, because what we know from speaking to so many mummies is that a lot of them are feeling the same out there. So it could be that you decide to break that down into, I guess, bite-sized chunks. So it may be that on week 1, you decide that you're going to pop wee Peppy in the pram. You're going to maybe go for a walk around the garden or to the bottom of the driveway. And then maybe 2 or 3 days later or the following week, you're actually going to pop them in the pram again, but you're going to get a little bit further. It might be that you decide to go to the end of the street. And then on the 3rd week, it may be that you pop into the group activity that you're planning to go to. Have a chat with the person that's facilitating the group at the start of it and get a feel for it. You don't have to stay. But then on that final week, having kind of sussed out all those steps before and hopefully built up your confidence a little bit, then it might be that you decide you're going to rock on up to that group and see how it goes.
Yeah, that step by step is really helpful, isn't it? To just sort of see how far you've come, and knowing that, each of those steps might not be as bad as what you thought they were going to be. Yeah, really nice way of approaching something new that feels tricky like that. Yeah. So I guess, sorry, Helen.
I think that's okay. I think part of that as well is the internal dialogue that we have with ourselves. So we often reflect on a day in what hasn't gone very well. So it may be that you look at your day and think, gosh, I didn't respond to my baby very well and it may have only been 10 or 15 minutes in a day, which if you translate that into a percentage across your day is tiny. It might only be 1 or 2%, but you can guarantee that's the bit that we focus on. And often talking to ourselves a bit kind of can help reset that, because actually if only 2% or 10% didn't go well, that means that 98% or 90% actually went really well. So trying to reset that internal voice a wee bit. So, talk to yourself as you would a close friend or as a child, with a bit more kindness and compassion, because at the end of the day, everybody out there is doing the best that they can. We don't have to be perfect. Nobody is.
Yeah. I love that idea of talking to yourself like you would a friend. That feels really nice to keep that in check.
Yeah. And I think probably the final tool that's quite a nice, easy one to do is using journaling. It can be a really good way to distance yourself from your thoughts. And I guess if you journal down what's going on for you at the time, it's a little bit like doing a worry dump and dumping your worries on a piece of paper. If you if you kind of dump down your thoughts, you can come back to them later and perhaps just look at them a little bit more objectively. And I think sometimes that journaling process helps you to keep your emotions a bit more in check, figure out the next step. And you could even kind of journal something that you're grateful for in a day, or something that you've done particularly well, just to help set the balance again into something that it's a little bit more positive. And I think the other thing we often hear from mums is they're not managing to do anything in a day, and often reminding them that actually they are nurturing and growing a human being, you know, a little person in the life, and that is absolutely huge. That's a huge achievement every single day.
Massive achievement.
Yeah.
I think journaling is really nice for a lot of people, and it doesn't have to take any formal structure. It can be, you know, what you want it to be, and can be a nice tool actually to look back, you know, like, oh, 3 weeks ago, this is sort of where I was thinking, how I was feeling. Now this has changed. Maybe things are better. Maybe there's been some changes that haven't been going so well, but it's really nice to reflect on that, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it feels we've talked a lot about kind of tools and techniques to help ourselves if things aren't going great, or we're just noticing that we're not feeling too brilliant with the parenting journey. But if things are not getting better, who can we reach out to, Georgie? Who's out there?
Yeah, well, I think we've talked a wee bit, Helen, about, you know, our family and friends support. You know, those in the first instance are really key people around us that know us, that we trust, and they are often the ones that we can sort of say, oh, we're having a really, you know, average day, a really tough day today, or I'm feeling low, or I could do with an extra hand. And it might be that, you know, one of those family members or friends can come and fold some washing, or just be a listening ear, or take baby out for a walk while you're trying to have a rest. And those small things are really valuable to us. Your GP, again, and your health professionals, I can't sort of stress how important it is to connect in with your GP, especially if you feel your mental health isn't going where you thought it should be going. It's not on track. So, touch base with your GP, and they can offer other sort of referral options around counselling and talking therapy. There's a lot of sort of free counselling or low-cost counselling available nationwide. Often a number of sessions to sort of get you started if that's something you feel you need to sort of put your energy into.
And that's so good to know that there is free counselling out there.
Yeah, definitely, because can be a real barrier for a lot of people. It can be a really pricey service. So being able to have a chance for some free sessions is wonderful. And I guess we're really lucky in New Zealand with some of our free helplines that we have. We've obviously got Plunket line, which is wonderful, not just to support around questions around your baby, but also to support you with your mental health. And also the 1737 mental health helpline support number. So they're both 24/7 numbers, and really great and available for you around your mental health. And Healthline's also there too. So they can be really good. The Plunket website, there's a lot of work being done on there to sort of support around understanding maternal mental health and strategies you can try. So that's a great source for us. And also the PARTA website, which you touched on, Helen, the perinatal anxiety, depression, Aotearoa. That's wonderful for information, but also some lovely videos, which are sort of people's real life experiences. And those videos and being able to link in with people that have had similar experiences can be really valuable for us in understanding what's going on in our world at the moment.
And some really good articles on the website as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a vast of information, and often something that you go back to at different times also. And there's a lot of good apps out there now. We're on our phones a lot, so apps can be a helpful tool, for a daily check-in, daily tips and strategies to support us. We can track things like our mood and our sleep, and those things can be helpful for us. A website called Just a Thought is a website we recommend a lot in our work. It's a free website and a place where you can work through modules around managing your anxiety and depression in your own time. And it's based on cognitive behavioural therapy practices. So that's a really a helpful website if you want to sort of get stuck in a little bit more to supporting yourself around your anxiety and depression. And finally, Bellyful is a lovely nationwide charity. They provide meals to families in need. You can refer yourself if you feel like a couple of meals would be really helpful for you just to get you over a tough week. Or if you want to refer a friend or family that family that could really do with that. Yeah, so there is a lot of good supports out there, and sometimes people that have been down the road you have got other good ones to suggest too, which is always nice to hear of those.
Yeah, so great to know that there's things out there for families, and I think just being able to take that first step is often really hard, but can be worth doing just to tap into some of the supports that are there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I think we're at the stage where we have time for questions. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to send them in. We do have a couple of questions that have come through already. So please bear with me while I just get to the first question.
Also, I'd just like to apologise if my dog's been annoying throughout. I'd said to Helen, I'm going to get the dog a bone from the butcher and he'll be happy, but maybe he hasn't been so happy.
Not wanting to be outside.
Let's get back to these questions.
So the first question today is, I used to have a good coping plan with heaps of ideas I would use when starting to feel down. The problem I am finding as a parent, however, is that a lot of those ideas are not so easy to do when you have to occupy or have eyes on a baby or bring them with you somewhere. Dashing out is more of a prolonged exit than a dash, plus living rurally. Any sort of ideas to get a break and improve mood when baby is awake. I'm also finding it hard to get out with all the COVID around and the terrible weather. Feeling like there's a bit of a new storm every week. So, Georgie, what suggestions have you got for that wee mama there?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. It's sort of in two parts, isn't it? Like, what can we do at home when you're trying to sort of occupy a baby? And feeling low, and also what can we do when we're trying to get out of the house. I think it's great that she has identified that she's had lots of ideas in the past that she's used, and even though she might not be able to use them now, I think it's really good maybe looking a bit closer at those and saying, how can I do some of these things but maybe in a slightly shorter space of time or in a slightly different way. And also knowing that our babies don't need constant supervision. If we've got a sort of eye on them, they're happily on the floor, and maybe we can incorporate one of those strategies while the baby's playing, really prioritising that in those moments. But things like, if exercise has been a big part of your life in the past and you're used to going out to classes or out for a run, maybe it's incorporating some shorter movements or shorter exercise with your baby there at home with you, or maybe you're dancing around the lounge with some music on that you enjoy. Finding those little moments, to bring in, and anything you can do like that with your baby, things that you've previously enjoyed. Maybe it's cooking or exercise or some sort of craft or whatever that may be, finding a way that your baby can, even if it's for a shorter time, incorporate, into those moments. And I think sometimes, the getting out of the house stuff, it can be really hard and it can be quite overwhelming. So maybe looking at how you can prepare some of that maybe the night before, really scheduling it in so you're knowing that maybe on Wednesday I'm heading out to meet a friend or I'm doing something, and actually really being focused about making that happen for yourself and preparing as much as you can. Yeah, have you got anything else to add there, Helen, that you think would be a good suggestion for this mum?
Yeah, probably covered it. And I think sometimes the other thing is when you live rurally, just around trying to make those connections can be very difficult because the distance can be so hard. But sometimes even popping onto a social media website and reaching out that way, or having a chat with your well child nurse to see if they can link you in with maybe another whānau that's got wee Peppy down the road, just to that you may not be aware of. That can often be a good way to do it.
Yeah, nice. And Helen, we've got another question, Mum Shelley, and she said, I would be really interested in some tips for mums of littlies who are juggling looking after their children, also while they're working. What can you suggest there?
Okay. So it is really, really hard being a mummy and then being a mummy at work as well. It brings in extra dimensions of juggling. I think the one thing you maybe do get at work, depending on what your job is, that you don't always get at home, is the opportunity for a break. So it may be that you'll utilise your time at work at lunchtime to do some aspect of self-care. That could be going out for a walk. It could be, if you've got a place at work where you can do it, maybe doing some yoga stretches or something like that, or even sitting down with a sandwich, a cup of coffee, and reading a chapter of a book or a couple of pages of a book, which might not be something that you normally get time to do. It could be that you choose to listen to a podcast, or even just enjoy doing nothing without feeling guilty about it. Can be really quite nice. I think when you're at home, often negotiating with your partner. So if your partner's working as well, it may be that you negotiate a little bit of time each, that you pop on a calendar or in a diary. So it could look like an hour each week. It could be 20 minutes twice a week. But you both have that time that is yours to do something that you want to do with it. It's time away from work, away from the baby, away from chores, just for you to do kind of what fills your cup back up. And we often feel we can't do that, but when you look at maybe 20 minutes each, that's 40 minutes across a week. It's often resetting those expectations about what you can achieve in the time that you've got. So it may just be smaller chunks of time, and what can I do in that time that's going to help. And I think if you've got family support, friends, doing a bit of a baby swap. So maybe one day, if you've got a really good trusted friend, you could look after their wee Peppy for a bit, and they can look after yours another day, just to give you a break and have some time out. And support from family, just to have maybe a date night once a month, something that you've got the opportunity to look forward to. I think, those are really good things that can help. Is there anything you would like to add there, Georgie?
No, I think they're lovely ideas, and I know we've talked about before, Helen, that it's also recognising that sometimes we get, the weeks are really good for us, and things happen in the way we want, and things are going well and we're able to meet, you know, some of these, you know, sort of goals and that sort of stuff. But other weeks, it just doesn't work like that. So coming back to that kindness to yourself, you know, it's nice to have those good intentions and plans to do some things, but also maybe the plan B is that, you know, this week hasn't really worked out how we wanted it to, and that's okay. So, but yeah, there's some lovely ideas there.
Yeah, and there's
I think we've got,
comments.
we just had, I think it looks like a sort of a comment has come through.
Yeah,
as well, which a really great suggestion.
Yeah, so Ali has said that I have found that goal setting and telling someone my goals keeps me accountable and helps me to combat my anxiety a little bit and get pushing doing the things that terrify me. So again, that's just working on those little goals to help achieve maybe a bigger goal. It's taking those little steps. So thank you, Amy. No, Ali, sorry. Thank you, Ali.
Ali, yeah, I really like that too. I really like that. And it's sort of Ali obviously using that good trusted friend or family member as well, like we've talked about, to support her and how she's recognised anxiety affects her. So that's, I think, wonderful. Yeah, really cool.
So it feels, if there's no more questions coming through, that we've probably covered a lot this afternoon. So before we move on to relaxing, kind of hopefully breathing technique, just do you want to do a recap, Georgie, of the key points of what we can take away from today?
Yeah, sorry if the lag's affecting the technology here, guys. But yeah, no, I think, you know, talking about those baby blues and the symptoms of depression and anxiety and how those things can affect, yeah, really helpful to understand some of that information. Just really that you're not alone if you're experiencing any of these things. That, you know, this is somewhat common, you know, for a lot of us. And if you can talk to someone you trust and seek out the help of your health professional, your GP or your well child nurse, that can be a really great step in supporting you moving forward. That, you know, rest when your baby's resting and trying to introduce some of those other strategies we've talked about are really good. Asking for help if you need it, doing things like going out for a walk or just, you know, having that moment and being in that present moment is a lovely thing to introduce in your day, and finding those things that bring you joy, that you enjoy doing, even if they're really tiny, slotting them into your day. And I think one of the big ones is just expecting not to get it right all the time, to lower those expectations when you can, to be kind to yourself, that this is just a really hard job. And people talk about it being a hard job, but when you're in it, it is really tough. We have moments of joy, but also moments when things don't go as well as we would hope them to go. So, yeah, just I think recognizing that stuff's really helpful. I might just go and get my dog if he's being extra annoying. And what we're hoping for, if you've got a wee bit more time, is that Helen's going to sort of show us how to practice one of these breathing exercises and to be in the present moment. And it's hopefully you can follow along with her as she's talking us through that and enjoy it. Yeah.
Thank you, Georgie. Okay, so if you would like to, so this is an invitation to join in if you would like to, just to find somewhere comfortable to sit, ideally not one where you're going to fall asleep. So it may be that you just choose to sit comfortably on a couch or maybe cross-legged on the floor, whatever works for you. And then just closing your eyes or focusing on one spot in the room. And then gently rolling your shoulders forward and then slowly back. So you can lean your head from side to side, lowering your left ear towards your left shoulder, and then your right ear towards your right shoulder. And then relaxing all your muscles and just noticing how they feel when you're relaxed. And then turn your focus to your breathing and notice how your breath flows in and out, and making no effort to change your breathing in any way. Just simply notice how your body breathes. And sit quietly, seeing in your mind's eye your breath flowing gently in and out of your body. And when your attention wanders, as it naturally will, just focus back again on your breathing. Notice any stray thoughts, but don't dwell on them. Just simply let the thoughts pass. And see how your breath continues to flow deeply and calmly. Notice the stages of a complete breath, from the in-breath to the pause that follows, the exhale, and the pause before taking another breath. See the slight breaks between each breath. Feel the air entering through your nose. And picture the breath flowing through the cavities in your sinuses and down into your lungs. As thoughts intrude, allow them to pass and return your attention to your breathing. See the air inside your body after you inhale, filling your body gently. And notice how the space inside your lungs becomes smaller after you exhale and the air leaves your body. Feel your chest and stomach gently rise and fall with each breath. And now as you inhale, count silently 1. As you exhale, count 1. Wait for the next breath and count again 1. Continue to count each inhalation and exhalation as 1. Notice now how your body feels. See how calm and gentle your breathing is and how relaxed your body feels. Now it is time to gently reawaken your body and mind. Keeping your eyes closed, notice the sounds around you. Feel the floor beneath you. And feel your clothes against your body. Wriggle your fingers and toes and shrug your shoulders. Open your eyes and remain sitting for a few moments longer. Straighten out your legs and stretch your arms and legs gently. And maybe just sit for a few moments more, enjoying how relaxed you feel and experiencing your body reawaken and your mind returning to its usual level of alertness. And slowly return to your normal sitting or standing position and continue with the rest of your day, hopefully feeling a little bit re-energized. Okay. Thank you for sharing the time to do that. So that is everything.
That's lovely, Helen. Thank you.
You're welcome. From our session. So just to say thank you to those of you that have tuned in. Please reach out if you feel you need support with your mental health or your well-being. And there will be resources linked into the bottom of this. So just to say thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.